Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of H2OMG's Drippy's Drive-In, where we're talking about
Mutiny on the Bounty
from 1962, starring Marlon Brando, Trevor Howard, and about 6,000 people from Tahiti.
They were actually from Tahiti?
Yeah, They were in Tahiti when they made it.
Okay.
Those were real, and that's a real number, 6,000. That's how many extras they had in the scene where the boat pulls into the harbor.
It
6,000.
looks like it.
That's where they spent all their money on paying extras.
Yeah.
So now, why did you pick this movie, Michelle?
I did not. So why did you pick this, John-Michael? This torture of a movie.
Michelle isn't even joking. This movie is pure torture. It was 185 minutes long, and you felt every minute of that.
Yes.
Because that's just 3 hours. I thought it was longer than that, but it's 3 hours.
Yeah.
It's long enough and old enough to have an intermission in the middle, where for 5 minutes they just play a song and show a title that says intermission.
I kind of like that. That might have been my favorite part of the movie.
Me too. Because you didn't have to listen to his horrible accent. But yeah, it was a nice little break. And like you said, when we were talking about it earlier, you can go to the bathroom or something. That must have been nice. Because now you have to watch these horrible movies, like all the Batman movies that are 3 hours long, and you don't get an intermission.
Yeah, why did they stop that practice?
Yeah.
For the...
I don't know. I wonder if it was... I don't know.
Didn't Tarantino a few years ago had a movie and he built in an intermission?
Probably. That seems like something he would do.
Yeah. So, but clearly it's gone out of practice. Although most movies now clock in at what, an hour and 30?
I don't know.
That's standard.
I don't know. I feel like they're getting longer and longer.
Yeah. Was it back then movies were longer? Like, I'm just trying to figure out. I don't know.
I bet it was just more like that's what they used to do with plays, or they still do that with plays.
That's
right?
A good point.
And back then they just thought of movies as being plays on film, and so they just kept that as a part. But somehow we stopped doing that.
That makes sense. And now we have to use those apps that tell us the good times to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, exactly. So why did I pick this movie? Well, this has the most water in it of any movie I've ever seen. So that's for one. Number two is I really love the other version of this movie starring Anthony Hopkins and Mel Gibson, which is just called Mutiny, and it's from 1985, I think. And Liam Neeson's also in it.
Oh, nice.
Maybe it's not a good movie, I don't know, but it's way better than this, and it's entertaining, and it's shorter, and it's a lot more historically accurate. This is this isn't accurate at all. And when we first started talking about this, you didn't know this was a real thing that happened in real life, right?
No, okay. I did not know it was based on something that was real.
The only reason I knew is because I've always been really interested in this period in history and boats in this period in history. Oh, I don't know. When did this happen?
It was like
the 1700s.
I was like, it was the 1700s, right?
Yeah. No, maybe.
No, I think it is.
Oh, she's looking it up.
Yeah, 1789.
Okay, so we were right, 1789. So that whole British age of sail thing, I've always been into it. So, and Marlon Brando is supposed to be a good actor, but I don't see any evidence of that here. We'll get into it. I don't want all the Brando heads writing in and
let them
otherwise.
Write. Defend.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, write in.
Defend this performance.
She's saying that because she's not the one that has to read them.
That's true. Maybe he's super meta, right? That's his whole shtick. He was meta before James Franco was meta, right?
You talking about like Daniel Day-Lewis?
Yeah.
Method acting?
Well, not even method acting. It's like they are acting.
Oh, yeah.
They're performing within performing. It's like two layers up.
You told me this before where so him and the main character, Marlon Brando and Trevor Howard. So how do we get into this?
Do we need to back up?
Let's just start from the beginning. But I know what you're, bring that up again.
Yes,
because we'll talk about that again. Okay, so runtime 185 minutes. Okay.
Explain what actually happened. Like the real thing in real life.
So the real story is that the King of England, I think it was the king, whoever ruled England. Yeah, it was the king. He wanted an expedition to Tahiti because he knew about these fruits they had called breadfruit, right? It's a cheap food source, and I think it's easy to grow. I don't know. Something about it made it a good idea to feed a lot of people. And so...
cheaply, right? When
sure,
you get the idea.
Mm-hmm. And so they put the captain of the boat, Captain Bligh, he was actually, in real life, he was a lieutenant. But they call him captain because he was in charge of the boat, something like that.
Mm.
And he goes all the way to Tahiti with Fletcher Christian, the first mate, right? And their mission was to get these breadfruit and bring them back to England or to one of the colonies to cultivate them so they can have food. And I guess it had never been done before. And so they get there, they get the breadfruit, they're talking with the people of Tahiti, everything's going well, but they had to stay there a long time because you can only transplant the breadfruit at a certain time of the year, right? Maybe this is getting too much into the breadfruit weeds, but that's why they had to stay in Tahiti for a long time.
Yeah.
And the guys on the ship, the sailors, they got more and more relaxed. They were hanging out with the women of Tahiti, and when it came time to leave, he's like, all right, the breadfruit's ready. Let's go back to England or wherever. They didn't want to leave for various reasons.
They're like, we're living our best life. What are you doing?
Exactly. Why do we have to go back to our jobs?
Yeah.
So, but they all did leave, and they, not that far out from Tahiti, Fletcher Christian led a mutiny, and they took Captain Bligh and all of the people loyal to him, and they stuck them on a boat, and they just stranded them out in the middle of nowhere, right? They gave them a compass, whatever that thing's called, where they can navigate, and they said, okay, good luck, and they left them, and they went back to Tahiti, right?
Yeah. I think this is the part where I fell asleep twice. Twice.
So,
it's brutal.
So also, this movie took me 3 weeks to watch. I watched it in 3 parts, an hour a week, because it was so boring. And anyway.
And it's no longer on Netflix, by the way.
Oh, good.
They pulled it off.
That's good.
So I had to pay $3. I had to pay $3 to rent this thing and fall asleep on it multiple times. So it's okay.
Well, they realized
$3 they'll never get back.
Just one person in Texas was watching it. And they're like, you know what? We should just take this off.
Let's take it off.
So anyway, big mutiny. Fletcher Christian and his mutineers take the ship, which I've forgotten the name of the ship.
Oh.
They take it to an island called Pitcairn Island, right? And some of the
Bounty. Oh my gosh!
Wow. I forgot the name of the ship. It's in the title. Oh man. So.
Wow.
So anyway, after they took the ship from the captain, the Bounty, they took it to what was the name of that ship they had the mutiny on? I don't remember. They took it back to Tahiti. They took some of their girlfriends with them on the boat, and they went to a place called Pitcairn Island, which was very hard to find for some reason. And they figured they'd be safe there because they knew if Bligh made it back to England, he was going to come after them. So they had to go to Pitcairn Island, and it's a very small island, in the middle of nowhere. And they sunk the boat, and they kind of lived out there the rest of their days. I think it's a mystery what really happened to Fletcher Christian, but he does have relatives or descendants who still live on that same island to this day. So that's interesting.
Oh, that's
the real story. Now let's get into what happened in this movie. And also, we should say that we didn't watch this at work. Okay, we watched this on our free time. We spent 3 hours of our, well, I watched the whole thing. She didn't.
I did like 2.5. Sorry.
I'm sorry. If you quit at the intermission, you made it to about an hour and a half. So
I saw a little bit beyond
okay,
that. That's when I just kept falling. I fell asleep twice on it.
Well, so anyway, we didn't watch this at work. We watched it on our own time. Just want everybody to know that.
Yeah.
So can you tell us what happens at the beginning of the movie? I see you don't have any notes. I have 4 pages of notes. And I used to make fun of Jillian for having a lot of notes, but I guess I've taken up her mantle.
Her mantle.
Now I have 4 pages, so.
Yeah. Yeah, I apologize about that. So, I mean, what do you want me to, like, you want me to begin from the very, very beginning?
Do you remember what happened at the beginning?
Yeah.
It's been a while.
Yeah, I think I remember it pretty good. So
they're on a dock in England.
And they're all getting ready to leave. And then you have the botanist come on, and
he's the narrator.
Yeah, and he talks all about the breadfruit and why they're there and all that jazz. And then they talk about that whole thing that they have to hit it at a certain time because they don't want the breadfruit to die, right, on the voyage back because it's a long voyage.
Yeah.
What I found interesting, though, did you notice they kept insisting that we only need 1 specimen? I mean, if you were going by ship, why wouldn't you get more? Like a dozen.
Remember that.
Yeah, I remember. They were like, we only need 1. I'm like, that seems like a huge... They're literally charting a boat across the earth, and they're only going to grab
You're
one.
putting all your eggs in one breadfruit basket.
Yeah.
And that's not smart.
No.
But when they get there and they take the breadfruit, I mean, the ship is absolutely filled with these plants.
Yeah.
They're in his quarters. They're all over the deck. They're absolutely everywhere. So I guess they get more.
They get more.
They do get more than 1, but I don't know why he's saying
Yeah, I remember saying that and thinking, like, that's a weird thing.
Maybe he's trying to reassure them, like, we only need 1. If they all die on the way back, as
long as one gets
okay.
through, then we're good. Yeah, so he explains that. He loads up. And then, of course, Brando comes on, and he's Mr.
Can I just say that he rides up in this carriage, and he gets out, and he is dressed like a pilgrim pimp. I don't remember with the colors. I feel like it was like purple. He's got a big
very outlandish
pilgrim hat on.
Yeah.
He's got 1 or 2 ladies with him. I don't remember.
He has 2.
2 ladies. Okay, that's right.
Yeah.
And he walks up on the boat like he owns the place.
He's like the rock star joining the thing. I mean, did they even wear clothes like that? Like,
I don't know. I don't
like what
his
he was
hat
wearing.
Seems really weird. It seems like a pilgrim hat, and that would have been 100 years too.
Were these calls made by Brando? Because we know that he was very eccentric. Like, I just feel like that was add on. Like, here's the normal sailor uniform from 1789. I don't like that.
Yeah,
I'm gonna add
a buckle hat like the Quaker Oats guy.
Yeah, and some purple.
Let's go ahead and say, and he was wearing a cape.
Yes, he was wearing a cape,
and maybe he even had a cane. It's crazy.
Yes, he does.
So let's just go ahead and say that the best part of this movie is the behind-the-scenes trivia of all the crazy stuff that Brando did, and we'll get into it as we go along.
Yes.
But so read that IMDb page because you know the trivia on there is 100% gospel truth. Nobody can just make that up. It's definitely the truth.
So they get off to like a rocky start. You know, you have this kind of hardened captain, and you have his first mate or whatever come in, and, you know, he's like, what's your deal? And so we start off right from the back tension.
So in this movie, they didn't know each other. The characters didn't know each other, right? But in real life, Fletcher Christian and Captain William Bligh knew each other pretty well. Like, they'd sailed before. And I think Bligh even maybe picked Christian to come with him because he knew he could trust him. So in real life, it was even more of a betrayal from Christian to Mutiny. But in this movie, they don't know each other, and they're like, oh, okay, I don't like this.
Off on the wrong foot from the get-go.
Neither of them like each other.
Yeah.
So,
and then I think one thing that happens very shortly after that, which this might be a minor detail, but it's kind of setting it up, is the captain asks that one guy to go do like a little errand for him or something, and we later find out that it was the cheese. He like swiped some cheese off of the ship.
Yeah, I didn't understand. But did he really steal the cheese?
So I think what happened is this. The captain, yes, I think he swiped off a couple of things of cheese, had them put, I guess, I don't know, with his family or whatever.
Oh, the captain did?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And then,
oh, okay.
You know, somehow it comes back out that there's cheese missing, and people get mad. And so the captain, because he's kind of twisted, says, whoever stole this cheese, we're rationing cheese now. This is your punishment. And everybody's mad because they want their cheese.
Yeah.
And so finally, the guy who did it says, yeah, I did it under the captain's orders.
Yeah.
And then the captain beat him over it.
Flogged.
Yeah. So I think, to me, what they were doing there is the captain, that was just a huge, like...
He's scamming cheese off the top.
He's scamming, but then he's also like... That's like authoritarian kind of play.
Yeah.
Kind of like, you snitch on me, you're going to pay. So I think from the get-go, like, he's kind of conniving, and he's just... brutal. He's a brutal captain.
So that's another thing I should bring up, is that in real life, whenever I start talking about real life history, you give me this look.
Like glazed over.
Yeah. But just real quick, in real life, Bligh wasn't this much of a bad person, right? He was a pretty good captain. It even says that he flogged people less than the average captain, right? And I guess it happened a lot.
Don't show that on this. Let me tell you, they may focus in on the wounds, man.
They make him straight up evil in this, and that wasn't the case in real life.
They got to build a case for the mutiny.
Well,
that's what they're doing. They're laying down the groundwork. This is going to be the tension.
So in the good version with Anthony Hopkins, it's reversed, where he's the good guy. Fletcher Christian is the bad guy. In this one, Fletcher Christian is definitely the good guy. Bligh is definitely the bad guy. But in real life, obviously it was more gray. But Bligh was not evil. He didn't punish people for no reason like this guy. He wasn't stealing stuff. He was a very honest, lifelong career sailor.
So we have this movie out there tarnishing his reputation.
Yeah. For a long time. Mm-hmm.
Sad.
Yep, it is sad. So.
That was like the fakest clearing of throat.
Well, one thing that Bligh did do in real life is that the sailors didn't like, was that he would make them dance all the time. He had a musician on board playing a fiddle, and for a certain amount of time every day, he'd make them dance. And I guess to keep up exercise and to keep up spirits, but if you're forced to dance, it's not fun, I imagine. So that's one thing that they resented him for in real life. That I think that's in the movie too. I remember them dancing, but that's one thing that he did do in real life, mandatory dancing. So let's see. So one of the first early things that happen is they get in a big storm, right? Mm-hmm. And him and Bligh and Christian get into an argument about what to do with some sails or which way to turn or something, because Bligh decided to take them around Cape Horn, which was a very dangerous horn to go around, famously dangerous, the southernmost tip of South America. It's shorter distance, but there's constant strong winds, larger waves, and even icebergs. So
he was trying to make time. He was worried that they weren't going to go during the proper season for the breadfruit.
He didn't want to get there too late.
He was trying to avoid exactly what ends up happening.
Yeah,
that they ended up having to stay there for a while.
Exactly. Yeah. And he was given this important task, and he wanted to do a good job for the king.
He is going to get the breadfruit.
No matter what, he's going to get that breadfruit. So that's a thing that they resented him for, was taking them a more dangerous way, just to get there faster. And so they're in Cape Horn. Bligh and Christian have an argument about which way to turn the ship to make it easier to. I don't understand sailing really, but they have an argument. All this stuff below is bouncing around. These barrels get loose, these giant barrels, and they're bouncing around and they can hurt people. So there's one really funny part where I guess it's not really funny, but this giant barrel falls on a guy and crushes him. And Marlon Brando is trying to get the barrel off of him, but it's too heavy, so he breaks it open with a hatchet or a mallet or something, and the water goes right into the poor actor's face and like up his nose, like he's almost like waterboarding him. And he kept calling it a water cask, but the liquid that comes out was brown.
What?
Yeah. I mean, did you notice that?
No.
So I think it was ale, because
That's
they drank a lot of ale, because ale was easier to keep sanitary than water, because of all the alcohol, obviously.
Yeah.
So I think it was ale, and they just misspoke and called it a water cask. So it's a DJ air horn. Let's see. And when he's doing that, you can even see the actor like moving his. He's supposed to be dead, but you can see him like moving his face to keep the water from like going up his nose, which must have been
Yeah,
awful.
because that sucks.
Okay, so we said all that. So they eventually give up going around the Cape Horn and decide to go around the Cape of Good Hope, which is the southernmost tip of Africa. It's an easier voyage, but it takes longer. But it made the sailors happy.
Well, then they arrived late.
Yeah, they arrived out of season to transplant the breadfruit, and so they had to wait around for a long time for that stuff, for the transplants to take and be safe to take away. I don't understand sailing or plants, so whatever. I'll take their word for it.
Yeah, it was very dramatic how they presented the plant too. They were like, "This is the chosen plant," and then there's like time passed, and like 2 days later, and it's like dramatically leaning over and very obviously dying, and they're like, oh, "The plant is dead. We have come during the wrong season. We have to stay." Yeah, it was very. Like, we got it. I had a feeling this was going to happen. Yeah. You know?
Yeah, it just sucks that they had to stay for so long in this beautiful island with, like, the best weather.
Yeah, and such welcoming people.
Yeah,
and
with food, good food.
Yeah.
It just sucks for them.
Yeah.
You do see a lot of scenes of them hanging out. There's a really long scene where the people of Tahiti are fishing. And they do it in this way where they line up, everybody on the island lines up into the water and like makes a big box of people, and then all the women do that, and then the men are on these boats and they're driving the fish into this human box by splashing and
then they use the nets to catch them.
And then they close them in, and then they use nets to catch them, or like, did they use spears? I don't remember.
I think they used both.
I think some of them had spears.
I thought it was beautiful. Like visually it was stunning. Yeah. And then they're all working together,
and they're singing a song while they're doing it. They're all there together. They're laughing, having fun. That was actually probably my favorite part of the movie.
Playing on the shore.
Yeah.
No wonder they wanted to stay there.
Yeah,
you want to get on that boat with those gruffy people?
I'd mutiny in a second.
Yeah. I have a feeling isn't England like not the best right now? Like during that time period?
At that point, no, I wouldn't think so.
Yeah.
Guess what? In 1789, they pretty much just lost the Revolutionary War to us.
1789?
Yeah. The Revolutionary War ended in 1783.
Yeah, so it's not a good time.
No, it's not a good time.
You can go hang out on a beach?
Yeah, do you really want to go to smoggy old London where they have, their waste right in the gutters and like...
yeah. I mean, we don't know what they're doing in Tahiti, but they seem to definitely be having more fun.
Well, there wasn't as much pollution for sure.
Yeah, it was only 6,000 people.
I tell you, it wouldn't take much for me to mutiny. You just show me like that old like salt pork or whatever on the ship that they're eating, and I'd be like, done. You know what, I'm gonna mutiny.
Yeah.
So, and I burn very easily, so I wouldn't be able to really live on that beach, but I would try. So yeah, that fishing scene is probably my favorite part, even though it's very long.
A lot of unnecessary detail, but it's fine.
It seems
it's just
like
so beautiful.
A legit way that they would actually fish. So I thought, oh, this is a cool like historical thing that this stupid movie is showing me. But
I will say this though, I think the other reason why they spend so much time because at that point, that's when the sailors they're like tentative, and then all of a sudden they decide to jump in the water and help them.
Well, they get permission to do that.
Well, yeah, but I feel like that was like that was the gate had been lifted. Like before, it was very like, we're over here on the ship,
That's
and
true.
y'all are over here. And then now that was like the first like kind of union of like they were done after that.
That's when the discipline started to really go downhill.
They were done. They were like, we're having a blast.
Yeah.
And they got to help the ladies.
Yeah.
So I mean, so I just think after that, they were like, they signed, that was the signing of the contract that this is done.
Do you remember that really tall, very pale guy who has like white hair, and he's got this big white Abe Lincoln beard? He's got no mustache. He's got a big beard.
Kind of.
Anyway.
I mean, you're describing like every English guy back then. So
he was noticeably taller than a lot of the other sailors. Anyway, I just remember him like
being goofy, being really excited,
like doing a flip or something, and being like, he's old too. Like none of these young girls are going to be into you, but why are you trying? Like, why are you doing cartwheels?
Yeah,
whatever.
Well, this is the movie.
Another little fun fact is that one of the I don't remember this guy's name, and I didn't write this one down, but one of the guys in that scene, he's the shorter, pudgier guy with the red hair. He's got a big ponytail. He's got like a big nose. Anyway, in real life, that actor got so drunk and so like, I don't know what happened, but he got so drunk one time that they kicked him off the island and wouldn't let him come back and finish the movie. So I don't remember his name, but that's an IMDb trivia. Like I said, that's fact.
Well, that was
Gospel
the thing, right?
Truth.
During this production was insane, and there was a lot of partying going on.
Mm-hmm. A lot of partying, especially Brando's party.
Yeah,
They're probably the people having the thing having the worst time on this movie set were Marlon Brando's pants. Because according to legend, he ripped like 50 something pairs of pants because his weight would fluctuate so much because of all the parties. And I told you this before, we watched it and you paid attention. You were trying to see when you think you can pick out when he's wearing a girdle and when he's, I couldn't tell, but
yeah, there's a way, as somebody, who has used a girdle a time or two, or Spanx or whatever we're all into now. There's a way to tell.
Yeah. Okay.
It looks good in photos. It looks good from afar, but you can tell. You can tell when somebody's actually thin and when they're putting on a girdle.
Captain
Again,
Kirk.
yeah, nothing wrong with it. It does look better. It smooths out all the bumps and it allows you to fit into your pants. I'm not hating on it, but you can definitely tell. Yeah, so I was kind of doing a Brando weight watch, which is horrible. But it was only because I knew that this was the backstory. Normally, I don't really pay attention to that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, I'm going to try to figure out, because, they never film in sequence. So, they were going back and forth. You can kind of tell when he's kind of girdled up.
We're not body shaming anybody.
No,
but
yeah.
We are Brando shaming because apparently he was a big jerk.
Yeah, it's just out of control.
So
complete out of control. So we're doing low hanging fruit, quite frankly.
Exactly.
Yeah. Low hanging breadfruit.
The other thing.
This is what everybody tunes off of the podcast.
If they get this far, I'm impressed. So another thing, I forgot to mention this. This is one of the first things I wrote down is that from the first second that Marlon Brando opens his mouth in this movie, it's just, it's going to be bad because he has the worst British accent I've ever heard in my entire life. And I could do one. I'm not going to, but I could do one right now that's more convincing than what he does. Because he's obviously a fancy person in this movie. Like we said, he's dressed like a pilgrim pimp.
Yeah.
And he's trying to do this high class British accent, and he goes all up into the nasal. It's very high pitched, very nasally, and it doesn't sound anywhere close to realistic. And he's like the only American in this whole movie. He's surrounded by real British actors with actual British accents. Why didn't he just try to copy them? That's what I want to know. But anyway, that's another thing that he did. And a lot of people said that his accent basically ruined the movie. And I agree. It wasn't a good movie to begin with, but his accent was so distracting that every time he opens his mouth, it's just like, You can't take anything seriously that he says.
See, to me, it wasn't his accent wasn't distracting. It was just like my brain just couldn't even, like in my brain, like he's not British. Like he's there, but he's not British because there's no way. Because it's too off. It's way too off. So like my brain couldn't even accept the fact that he was British. Like he was, to me, my brain was like categorized him as just something different with an accent.
Yeah.
Because it was almost, you couldn't even tell the origin. But the tone of his voice, that's what was distracting to me. And I couldn't get over it. It was a very, like an odd pitch. And I was like, what does his real voice sound like? Because I don't understand how he came to the conclusion that was a good idea. And everybody let him go along with it. But apparently at this point, right, in the 60s, he's super popular. He's a huge character. So he can get away with anything. And maybe nobody wanted to tell him anything.
Exactly. Oh, that's exactly, yeah.
So at this point,
you're
right?
exactly right, yeah.
But like how did he come to the conclusion? Like was he practicing in front of the mirror and doing his voices and stuff? And he was like,
perfect.
This is it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. He had so much power in Hollywood at this point, and he had a famously bad temper. So nobody's going to be like, "Oh, hey, Marlon, your accent sucks."
Yeah,
they're not going to tell him that. So
we can't place it. Your tone is weird. What are you doing?
I'm actually going to look up. I'm going to cut this part out, but I'm going to look up his accent, and we can play like a little bit of it just so people can hear.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Williams has been drinking seawater, sir. I was giving him some fresh water. I'm afraid he'll die without it. Ship's company! I'm taking command of this ship. Mr. Fryer, I'll have the keys to the arms chest.
You'll give him nothing! Go below and arm the men off watch.
Stay where you are, Fryer. You've given your last command, Bligh. I'll have those keys, Fryer.
You heard my order.
One more order, Mr. Bligh, and I'll have your head on this stick. By heaven, I swear it!
So anyway, that's enough to give people an idea.
Yeah.
Williams has been drinking seawater, son.
Hey, that's pretty good. That is pretty good.
Did I sound British? No.
More British than Brando's British, that's for sure. So I was trying to figure out who the King of England was at this time is. George III.
Oh, he was still, because, Mad King George.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that right? Okay. Sorry, that was random.
I should have known that.
Anyway. I'm fascinated with the line of succession.
Michelle's always talking to me about the British royals, and I could not care less.
I'm not always talking about it. It's just, it's in the news a lot right now. And so I'm trying to figure out the family tree. It's insane.
Every day I go home because there's a big thing happening that I don't understand with Meghan Markle and the prince that she's married to, whatever his name is. And I have to hear about it from you at work, and then I go home and I have to hear about it from Allie. And I don't care about royalty. Anyway, this is getting off.
It's fun.
Off track.
It's fun.
It's fun.
Don't hate.
It's fun. So, blah blah blah. A bunch of stuff happens. At one point, when things start to get really bad on the ship, Brando hears some men arguing with the captain outside of his cabin. Because the captain had put the whole ship on half rations.
Yes.
Right, and so he's starving them, and they hadn't even gotten to Tahiti yet. But all I remember is that Brando is in his little cabin, and he's reading a book or something, and he gets up, and he's dressed like Ebenezer Scrooge.
Yes.
With a floppy nightcap,
yes.
a night robe.
Brought quite the wardrobe.
Yeah. And he's smoking the longest pipe I've ever seen.
Out of control.
He walks out and says something to the captain. Anyway, that scene, whatever.
Yeah, that caught my eye too. I was like, what is this?
Got his little nightgown on and everything.
Clearly, Brando just wore what he wanted to wear when he wanted to wear it.
Oh, we forgot to say that they finally solved the pants ripping problem, but the seamstress started putting stretch material into his pants. So, like, he was wearing jeggings, basically.
Oh, nice.
Which, it seemed like if he really ripped 50 pairs of pants, they should have thought of that a lot earlier, saying, like, we should put some spandex in there or something. Yeah. So I don't know if I believe 50 pairs of pants were ripped. That seems crazy.
Yeah.
But maybe it's another thing where they didn't want to address the issue with him, so they just kept giving him more pants.
Yeah.
And
I've heard of actresses too. Like some of them, they will cut out the tag because or sew a different number in there.
I think Jerry Seinfeld does that in an episode.
Oh, really?
I think.
No, it's a real thing though.
So another fun fact is that the ship that they're on, can't remember the name of it, but the Bounty that they're on was an actual ship that was built just for this movie. And this movie has one of the biggest budgets, especially definitely of the time, but I think in movie history, it's got a crazy budget. So
You
that's an
can
actual
tell
ship.
though, the ship looks amazing.
It looks great.
It looks for real. And there's
Yeah.
some scenes when they are on the water.
Yeah.
Did they take it out to the actual ocean and
Oh,
film
yeah.
there, or was it in a studio?
I think
both.
I think a little bit of both, but I know that I don't think they sailed it with the actors, but when they got to Tahiti, they actually sailed that ship from where it was built
there
to
are
Tahiti.
some scenes,
Yeah.
especially knowing that it's 1962, that you're like, that is an actual boat on the ocean.
And that boat survived until October 29th, 2012,
Wow.
when it was, it was during Hurricane Sandy, and it was in port because people could visit it as part of the
you can
movie
tour
set.
it? Cool.
And actually, people took it out to sail, and it was, it says it was last seen with only the masts standing above water. 2 of the crew died. The captain, Robin Walbridge, and Claudine Christian, the direct descendant of Fletcher Christian. Those people actually died when that ship sank.
What?
That's crazy.
In 2012?
2012, yeah, in the Atlantic Ocean.
I'm like, we still have ships sinking and people dying from that?
Yeah. I don't know why they took it out, especially during Hurricane
I guess it
Sandy.
makes sense.
Why
But
did oh, well,
Yeah,
that's
I
a
was like,
whole another story.
maybe they got caught out there or something.
Yeah. And
Maybe they didn't have. You would just think with our current technology, they would knew the storm was coming, would have enough time to get out of the way.
you would think.
Why would
I
this
can understand if
happen?
this happened in the 70s
Yeah,
or something. But
yeah.
the 2012. I don't know. I'm not blaming any of
Yeah,
them.
whatever.
But I am
it's just
wondering why
interesting.
they were out during a hurricane. Whatever.
What a weird captain sailor kind of tale.
Isn't that crazy? The direct descendant of Fletcher Christian was on that boat and sank on a replica of.
What are the
Bounty.
odds of that?
Crazy.
Weird.
It must have been for some special, maybe a anniversary of the
Some
of
curse.
something.
There's some sort of weird sailor curse going on here. That's much better.
They do have a lot of superstitions.
Yeah,
Like,
that's what I'm saying.
I once we went on a trip to Cabo, Mexico, right? And we were going to go deep sea fishing. And I've never been deep sea fishing. And I don't really eat breakfast, but I knew I was going to get hungry later. So I had a banana and I put it in my bag. And somebody who had gone fishing before, they knew all the rules. They were like, you can't bring a banana on a boat. I was like, what are you talking about? And they said, it's bad luck to bring a banana on a boat.
Why?
I don't know.
What does
but
the banana represent?
I said, look, I'm gonna bring the banana on this boat because I'm not superstitious. And I said, what's the big deal? I'm gonna bring the banana. I'm gonna get hungry later. I'll eat it.
Yeah.
It's fine.
It's a sensible snack.
Yeah. And I said, there's a sunscreen called Banana Boat. What's the big deal? And they wouldn't let me on the boat with that banana. So I finally had to say, okay, fine. I should have just stood my ground and kept the banana and not let them
Prove to you.
No, had them not let me get on the boat because I got out there and for 8 hours I was seasick. So I should have just stayed on shore anyway. Or if I'd eaten that banana, maybe I'd been fine. Who knows?
You will never find out.
So they finally pull the boat into Tahiti. And so many people row out to greet them that it looks like every person on the island is rowing out to
It
them.
really
They're
does.
so excited.
Yeah.
But it must have been nice to have a visitor. You know, if you're on an island, if people pull up in this big boat, it must have been exciting. So they all row out there. And this is interesting. That scene where the Bounty first pulls into Tahiti is filmed in the same spot where the real Bounty landed in 1780 whatever. We talked about, let's see. We talked about the water. We talked about how there are, 6,000 extras in this movie.
Oh, I have a thing about your banana boat.
Okay.
So apparently,
we have an update on the banana superstition.
Yes, Google is amazing. So there's kind of two. You're never supposed to bring a banana or a suitcase aboard a fishing boat. This is specific to fishing boats. Okay. And so they believe the origin of this belief dates back to the Caribbean trade of the 1700s. And it was because sailing wooden boats, when they would grab bananas, they had to move quickly before they spoiled. And oftentimes they had to move so fast that they were unable to catch fish. And because the boats were moving too fast, I guess the methods of fishing, they couldn't do it. And so if you had bananas, you wouldn't catch fish. And so that's why you can't have bananas on fishing boats.
So it started out as like a practical thing.
It's a practical thing. Yeah.
I thought maybe, I just had the thought that maybe it was you're eating the banana, you throw the peel over, and somebody slips and falls off to their death.
What is this, a Bugs Bunny cartoon?
That actually would have been better than this.
Than that. Anyway, sorry. I was like, this is bizarre.
But did you know that almost none of the sailors back in these days knew how to swim?
Wow, so it's just certain death.
Pretty much. Isn't that crazy? Like, you'd think they would take a little time to learn how to swim. I mean, it's not hard.
You know what? True. And it's going to increase your odds of living. But, like, who's going to find you?
Well, if you can just stay afloat if somebody notices you fall off and you can just stay afloat for just a few minutes.
If you're going to get back on the ship.
Yeah, tread water, and then you can get back on the boat.
Good point. I'm thinking more like your whole boat blows up, so... But then you're all dead.
But also, what if you're in a river and you can see both banks and you fall off the boat? You can't swim to either bank because you don't know how to swim?
Yeah.
That's crazy. Anyway, maybe there's a reason. Maybe we're speaking from our 21st century privilege.
I think that's what we're doing.
That's what we're
completely.
doing.
Yeah. Okay. You'd have to swim in ponds back then, right? There weren't real swimming pools.
They'd never even seen a real
except
swimming pool.
ultra wealthy, maybe.
But it wouldn't even have been weird to them. Now for us, it's gross to swim in a pond.
It's weird. Well, I mean, it'd be accessibility, right? Like if you're living in England, there's probably a short amount of time you could actually jump into your local pond where you wouldn't be freezing, right?
Yeah, but
and then you had to have access to it.
What if you're?
I mean, it's even an issue now. That's why a lot of people don't know how to swim now. When we have pools, but a lot of times it's because you don't have access to a pool, and then you have to be taught. I don't know.
We're getting into real talk.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We're gonna have a fish boat podcast where we just ask questions. Don't provide any answers. Just ask questions.
So we're 44 minutes in, so hopefully this won't be as long as.
No, we're gonna edit a lot of this, or you're gonna edit a lot of this.
We'll see. I'm entertained. I don't know about you. Let's see. I said his pants thing. Okay, so then we get to the intermission.
Yes.
Which we talked about earlier. And
which is lovely.
5 minutes of just some music and a sign that says intermission. It was great. Probably the best part of the movie, behind the fishing scene.
Yes.
So right after the intermission, right after, the drama ramps up with one of the dead plants. A plant has died because after the intermission, they're back on the boat. Nobody's happy. They're on their way back to England. He's got the plants. One of them has died, and it is serious. That's all I had to say about that.
Okay.
So things get
tense.
Things get very tense. People start getting flogged.
All right, this is when I fell asleep. So at what point are they like, screw this?
I think they do the actual mutiny about 40 minutes before the movie's over with. So, but this is when the seeds of mutiny were planted a long time ago. They're really starting to germinate, like the breadfruit. And so because one of the plants died, Captain Bligh says, "Oh, well, we need all the fresh water for the plants because those are more important than the men, right?" And this is one of the crazy things that the real Bligh did not do. But he started saying that nobody can have water because they all had a big water barrel on the deck of the ship, and anybody could just go get this ladle and have a drink anytime they wanted. And he said, okay, nobody can have water anymore unless they climb all the way up to the top of the mast and grab the ladle, get a drink, and then climb all the way back and put it back. And that's crazy.
Yeah, he wants to make sure you're like super thirsty.
Well,
before you drink.
Some of the people were so thirsty that they physically couldn't climb up there.
Oh,
and
my
he wouldn't
goodness.
let other people go get water for them. And again, this didn't happen in real life. This is just a movie making him super evil so that you are really on Fletcher Christian's side. So
it's the water that was like the big breaking point then.
Yep, absolutely.
Not having access to water. How quickly our society devolves when we don't have access to clean, safe drinking water because we have to have water to survive. We can survive without food for a while. Not good old H2O.
Not without water.
Yeah,
now,
things start slipping.
Were you still awake when one of the sailors is going insane because he's been drinking salt water?
No.
So
I kind of now that I made it that far, I think I kind of want to re-rent it and then just forward though to the intermission and then watch the last half.
It wouldn't bother. But so one of the sailors is going crazy and he's saying this crazy stuff and they're like, what's wrong with him? And he's been secretly drinking seawater. And you can't do that, obviously, because it's 4 times as salty as our blood.
Wow.
Right? So I wrote down a question. I was like, when I said, obviously drinking seawater is bad, but will it drive you insane? Right? So there's no like concise answer, but basically any kind of thirst is going to drive you insane. Like extreme thirst, you're going to go crazy because you don't have anything to drink and you have to have, your brain needs water to function, obviously. So yeah, you're going to go crazy. I wrote down this long thing, but I'm not going to read all this. There's a really good article called "What If You Drink Salt Water" on howstuffworks.com that I'll probably put a link to that in the show notes. And it's just a really interesting thing about what the salt water does to your body. Like, why is it so bad for you? It tells you why it's bad, what'll happen to your body, and why, if you're stuck on the ocean, don't drink anything rather than drinking salt water because it's just going to make it worse. There's another big part where I can't remember the order of these things, so you probably were asleep. But there's a scene where a guy does something to make Bly mad. I don't remember. And so he has him keel hauled. You don't remember this?
No.
So apparently what that is they tie a rope to each of his arms, throw him over the back of the boat, and then underwater, and then drag him under the boat all the way to the front. And apparently, it's like a certain death because you're down there too long.
Yeah.
You're getting scraped on the bottom of the boat. So he died. And so that was really what set things off. And so then they do a mutiny. They kick everybody off the boat who's loyal to Bly. And they take the boat back to Tahiti. They get some of their old Tahitian girlfriends and some of the Tahitian men who wanted to go with them. And they go to Pitcairn Island because in the movie they find that it was on the British maps in the wrong place. So that nobody could ever find it unless it was by accident. That's what they said. I don't know if that's true, but that's what they said in the movie. And so they go there, and Christian wants to keep the boat for some reason, but none of the men want to keep it because they thought, if we keep the boat,
there's always an option.
Yeah, or they could see it, or he's going to make us go back to England or something. So they didn't want the boat. So they decided to burn it. Christian sees the boat burning, goes to try to put it out. He thinks it was an accident. He goes to try to put it out, and something happens to him. I kind of zoned out. And he gets injured, and he knows that he's dying. And so he says goodbye to his girlfriend and whatever, he dies. So now this scene was drug out so long, and Brando is hamming it up so much that I said, I know what's happening here. And I actually just turned it off and went to watch something fun. So I quit. But there were only I don't know, there's probably 10 minutes left.
Did we figure out, is this girlfriend in the movie, is that one of the ladies that he ends up marrying in real life?
I don't know.
We talked about that.
He ended up marrying 2 Tahitian women in his real life And yeah, I don't know if it was that co-star.
Because they make it, because in the beginning too, when he first meets her, because she's the chief's daughter, there's this scene where they make googly eyes at each other, and it is just over the top, like, we got it 10 minutes ago. They like each other. And it was just so overdone that it felt like Brando clearly requested that this scene go on too long. And so I was like, was he trying to impress her?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well,
or give her more screen time?
One of the things that happened is it started out, they had a director, and Brando didn't like him. And so he had so much power that he got that director replaced with someone who he could control. So basically, Marlon Brando directed this movie.
Yeah.
And so he could put himself in all these scenes and make this love
put
story
himself
a bigger
with
thing.
his, you're very pretty. I'm going to make sure that I have multiple scenes with you
exactly.
that are excessively long. And by the way, I'm going to give you a lot of screen time.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, that's what I was thinking. It felt like that.
Let's get to the fun stuff.
Okay.
The weird stuff that Marlon Brando did during the movie. So at one point, he pulled people off the film crew who were working on making the movie, pulled them off their jobs, and made them decorate a friend's wedding in Tahiti.
Wow.
Yep. He also had airplanes filled with cases of champagne, turkey, and ham flown all the way to Tahiti for parties. That's what happened with the pants.
So I don't approve of this, but I would have totally gone to that party because it was crazy. It was crazy. You think he just walked around with a big old chunk of ham, just took bites out of it? He totally did. That would explain
or a big turkey leg.
Yeah, just run around.
Let's see. During the final weeks of location filming, Brando decided to move into an abandoned villa 30 miles farther from the shoot than his previous house. MGM spent several $1,000s remodeling the whole place so he could live in it for just 2 weeks. So that's another reason that the budget was crazy. I put the pants thing in here a lot. I guess I didn't want to not mention it. Marlon Brando also wore lifts on his shoes so he could be the same height as Trevor Howard, who played the captain. And I was wondering if you noticed that.
No. So I know what lifts look like, and I know what to look for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is he wearing like big disco shoes?
No, well, they hide it in two ways. Like, one is they always put a subtle heel like on the actual shoe, but it's usually a dark shoe, and it's meant to be concealed, right? But then also you can have like the lifts that are also on the inside. So you have like what literally is a heel. So you have a heeled shoe, moderate, like boot range for you guys. And then on the inside too, they can have a lift like on the inside of your foot. So you're really like, from the outside, it looks like you got a normal boot on. But when you combine, which will give you like 1.5 inches or an inch, and then you combine that with like the interior one, you could easily get up like another 3 inches.
I should get some of those.
Yeah, they sell them. You can buy them online. So
I'm gonna write that down.
Yeah, it's basically a wedge. They essentially do a wedge shoe. Men do wedge shoes, and it makes them taller. So
I might look into it.
Maybe we would have more short men acceptance if the actors just allowed themselves to be the heights.
Yeah. Are you listening, Tom Cruise?
Yeah, just accept it.
Everybody knows that you're short.
It's okay. We need all people of all different sizes.
Yeah. So you were talking about this earlier about you compared Marlon Brando to James Franco.
Yes.
Now, I think we talked about this. Well, I think what you were saying is that Fletcher Christian and Captain Bligh hated each other, right?
Yes.
So Marlon Brando wanted to do all these jerk things to the actor playing Captain Bligh.
Yeah.
Because they would really hate each other, and that would be evident on screen.
Yeah.
Is that that's what you're saying?
Yeah, he was
right?
trying to be meta.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
just be like nobody was in on it except Brando. Like he was, again, I'm just totally projecting here, but that this was intentional. He was trying to rub people the wrong way because he didn't want them to be acting like they hated him. He wanted actual hate.
Actual hatred.
And maybe that was also the reverse with the people in Tahiti. He wanted them to actually love him. So he just took it all the way by marrying two Tahitian women at different points in his life. So I just didn't know if he was just trying to James Franco is notorious for doing swirly stuff like that. And so I just thought maybe Brando is in the same kind of
camp.
Yeah, just tries to take it to the next level. And then it's one of those, which I don't even know if people did that, because it seems like when people do this, unless you're Daniel Day-Lewis or Christian Bale, most people just think you're like too eccentric and weird. They're like considered like actor geniuses, and apparently they're very method.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Where do you draw the line? Where's the line between method actor and too crazy and eccentric?
Exactly.
Maybe making a house in Tahiti 2 weeks before production end, like that was or flying in ham for parties.
But to me, the great Daniel Day-Lewis isn't going to pull that garbage.
You're probably right.
He seems a little more
reserved.
Yeah, reserved and like.
I was thinking of him like a hermit, like he goes into a hermit-like state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he seems a little more realistic, down to earth when he's not acting.
But is that because of true? But when he inhabits these characters, he chooses characters that are more contained. Do you think if he chose a character that was very outlandish, and so he's so method, that he would inhabit
the guy he plays on There Will Be Blood is pretty outlandish and yelling a lot and got a big, and Gangs of New York. They're both pretty crazy.
That's true.
I don't know.
Brando was probably just being a jerk, but I just didn't. Maybe there was some of that in there too, though, trying to get that real animosity there.
Well, one of my favorite things that he did to build real hate is that he would just start improvising in scenes with Trevor Howard without letting Trevor Howard know what was up. Just start improvising, and then at one point he even started plugging his ears with cotton so that he couldn't actually hear Trevor Howard's lines. So that just seems insane.
Did you talk about how we know Brando would make up lines?
That brings us to the end. So this podcast took about an hour. That's only a third of the movie. So
and that movie is way more torture than this podcast
for sure.
will ever be.
But it's worth it just to look up scenes. We played a little bit earlier, but it's worth it to look up scenes of his accent because it's just funny. But and like the location, some good things about this movie, if we're trying to find something positive, are the locations are gorgeous.
Yes. The ship is amazing.
Yeah.
The scenes of the faraway scenes of the ship are.
Yeah, there are some beautiful shots. I mean, Tahiti's obviously just a naturally beautiful place, so it's probably hard to mess that up.
Yeah.
But that's a positive thing. Trevor Howard is a really good actor. He's in one of my favorite movies called Father Goose with Cary Grant. So it's not his fault that this movie is so terrible, and I feel bad for him that he was in it. And apparently, they hated each other in real life, him and Brando, after this. Apparently, Brando wrote this long letter to him years later, apologizing for how he acted.
Oh, that's kind of nice.
So that makes up for it. And Trevor Howard was such a class act that he agreed to act in at least one more movie with Brando, maybe two. But he, gave him another chance. So that was nice.
That's nice.
The last thing I forgot to mention was that the way that this sentence is worded on IMDb. This is another IMDb true fact. The way that the sentence is worded makes it sound like Brando was wearing his British naval costume at the premiere and he got booed out of the theater. The way that it's worded. So I don't know if he definitely got booed out of the theater, but I don't know if he was wearing the costume at the premiere. That seems too crazy. I don't know.
That seems on par with what he was up to.
Is that on brand?
Yeah, on brand. Oh.
I knew you were going to do that. So that's the last crazy thing.
Yeah.
We don't recommend watching the movie. Look up, I don't know, travel footage of Tahiti, and you get the same effect. I'd love to go there. It's
much
beautiful.
better time spent.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's going to be more relaxing. Yeah. Watch the Anthony Hopkins, Mel Gibson version. It's just more fun.
Yeah.
And more accurate. So, how many bags of popcorn do you give this movie?
Ooh, I don't even know.
1 to 5.
1.
1.
A 1.
Yeah.
Like I said, there's some small. You know what the thing is too? Like you already made me aware of some of the squirrely stuff that was going on behind the scenes. If I didn't know that and just watched this outright, it would have been way harder. Like if I wasn't looking for the crazy accent and the expanding waistline and you know, that's probably his future wife kind of stuff. Yeah. I don't even know.
Same for me.
What I would have done.
I'm going to give it 1 bag of popcorn too, because the only fun I had was knowing these crazy facts and watching for them.
Yeah, looking for signs and clues behind it. Yeah.
So we both give it 1 bag of popcorn. Don't recommend. We'll wrap this up by saying that Captain Bligh and all those people that were trapped on the boat did make it back to safety.
Yeah.
I don't know if any of them died
what a captain.
on the voyage. Yeah, it was great. So they made it back to some, I think it was like a Dutch port on some island, pretty far from where they were dropped off. It's actually incredible that they survived.
Yeah. That's another film.
Yeah, and he got back to England. Pretty sure he was court-martialed for losing his ship, you know? But I think he did. He stayed he was never a captain, but he stayed sailing ships, and, you know, he didn't lose his job, but yeah, so Fletcher, it's kind of a mystery. We talked about Fletcher Christian and what happened to them on Pitcairn Island is pretty big mystery, but we do know that he still has descendants living on that island, and like we said, one of them drowned when the bounty ship they built for this movie sank.
Crazy.
It is. It's crazy. It's a really cool story. But yeah. That's all we have to say about it. So.
What's the next movie?
Tune in. You
had to figure that out.
Well, I told you about that underwater movie the other day
that's
with the girl from Twilight.
Theaters. Yeah.
It's in theaters right now.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I don't know. I don't think I can convince my husband to go watch Kristen Stewart. I'd have to go see it by myself.
It's really hard for me to go. I have to be really excited before I want to go to the movies.
Same thing here. So, it takes a lot. I haven't even seen Star Wars yet.
Me either.
I freaking love Star Wars.
I have no idea what happens.
I do. Reddit. Thank you. But I
know people didn't like it, but whatever.
I need to see it. I liked how it's laid out, and I mean, I don't hate it. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. Well, we'll keep doing this series. If you have any
people are so excited.
Suggestions about shorter movies that we could watch about water.
Waterworld.
Let's go for any shorter.
Another really long, overly inflated, notorious budget movie.
We might do that actually. But if anybody has any suggestions, send us an email at wpe@fortworthtexas.gov. You can find us on Twitter at FWWater in English and at FWAgua in Spanish. We're also on Facebook at Fort Worth Water and Fort Worth Agua. And we also have an Instagram at SaveFWWater. So you can write to us at any of those places and tell us what the next movie we should do.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks everybody for sticking with us. And if you stuck with us this whole time, also let me know. So, because I'll send you a medal or something. Okay. Thanks everybody. Thanks Michelle for watching most of this movie.
Yeah.
With me, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.